Today we're going to talk about an overview of the program, what it is, why we did it, review requirements for the scholarship process. We do have free scholarships that are available. You have to apply and you have to go through a bit of a process to get that and to make a commitment. And then we're going to just kind of go down through some of the very real open dialogue around what you need to do to make sure that you're ready to move forward with something like this. So we'll have time. We should have some time at the end for a little Q&A. If not, we always have the ability to follow up. You can touch base with us individually if you have questions. So what's Ozworks Group? We're an online co-working space. Think of it that way for OZ stakeholders. A lot of you are members of it already, so I'm not going to get into crazy detail. We are somewhere over 350 members. I think we were up at 400 at one point, and people come and people rotate. And that's kind of one of the cool things about the community is that when folks are involved, they can be a part of our network, and there's no necessarily long-term commitment, so they can, learn and move and pivot and do all kinds of good things that are good for them. So we're helping founders, especially OZ founders, get clarity and peace of mind around opportunity zones, what needs to be done. Those founders can be founders of funds as well. So not just business owners, but also investors. The big thing here is like, let's have fun, right? And Emily knows this, and a lot of you know this. I say, like, if it's not fun, why do it? And lead with a giving hand, like be supportive of each other. That's the culture that we've really been conscious of since day one. So what's the Accelerator? All right, the Accelerator is merit-based. So we have a curriculum, we have a criteria, we have a matrix. The people who get scholarships, the people who participate, the people who get on the pitch at the end, everything is based on data that we track. It's not opinion. It's not how much I like or don't like your blue shirt or whatever. Whoever's wearing a blue shirt today, I apologize. But actually I am. This is all based on a real step back for us, which is why Emily and I, for those of you who are in cohort one, that we said multiple times, we don't evaluate the deals. We don't judge any of the practice pitches. It's very important that we provide a framework and that you, the participant, moves through this in the ways that you need to within our matrix, but also that are at your own pace. And we've changed that a little bit this time around so that the pace can be your own. We use AI software, some really advanced stuff. It's called CrowdSmart. It is the license for it is $150,000 a year. And it's being used at some of the largest institutions in the world, including the European Union, very, very large university systems for their analysis of investment deals. And I want to thank CrowdSmart publicly for sponsoring this so that Ozworks Group underwrites the cost of this accelerator, but we do so with very generous in-kind sort of gifts from people, and also the people who teach or volunteer, and even our team is volunteering. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But I'm very grateful and have huge amount of gratitude because none of this happens. I mean, to underwrite a check for 150K is just not feasible at this point. But we are working on building out a larger network and support base so that this can be more sustainable and larger long term. The proven process, right? So we did a pilot about more than a year and a half ago. Ozworks Group members, a lot of you participated in testing the software so that we could run our first proof of concept, which was cohort one that ended in April. So yeah, very, very grateful. We're getting to that point where we've provided and created something that we believe is really needed in this industry. And it's exciting. It's really exciting. So the objectives, this is something that I want to be really, really direct with, right? Our objectives are a little bit different than maybe a more traditional accelerator, which is, how to build your company and do, for those of you who are familiar with different business model canvas type things. We are all about teaching very real wealth education and financial awareness. And we really succeeded on those levels based on the feedback that our participants gave us. The third, and this is actually a priority list for us, right? The third is deployment of capital, because we have this formula and it's education and relationships equals capital, right? So education means that we're speaking the same language, both the deals and the community leaders and the investors. We have a similar language that we're speaking. And that leads to more awareness. Like I'll tell you, a success for us was when one of our participants contacted Emily and I week 8 and said, I don't think this is for me. I really have learned so much about financial literacy and entrepreneurship and raising money that I don't want to do it. But can I still please participate in the education because it's so valuable? And to me, that's a success, because this person also said, you may have saved me 8 years of my life because I was going down this path. So those are really powerful moments that have nothing to do with capital moving. But at the end, we want to tee you up so that you have a opportunity to be at a table, quote unquote, that maybe you normally wouldn't be at, which is to have a dialogue with an investor, right? So just keep all these things in mind. It's very powerful. Who participated in cohort 1? I've been over this before, so I'm going to touch on it really quickly. Cohort 1 had 79 applicants, 20 states, 85% low-income communities, meaning OZ communities. All of those applicants and anyone here who applies today will receive 6 months of free access to Osworks Group, even if you don't make it into the cohort. So there's a huge value right there. 14 scholarships were awarded, 10 different US states represented, 11 people of color, 100% of those from low-income communities. And that, again, that's all based on merit. So we had no puppet strings attached to any of this. It was just like, here's our matrix. It's really incredible, actually. I say this, I'm proud of it, that we were able to do something like this. So 25 projects. So the 14 scholarships, in addition to paid members or paid participants. So you can go for a scholarship. If you don't get it for some reason, you can still pay to get into the program. 12 modules, 12 weeks, 13 different presenters. We'll touch on them and who they are briefly here. And 6 people who participated got to pitch at the end. We did a little study that 86% of the people would highly recommend this to a friend or colleague. So great to have that input, and appreciate everyone who did the surveys throughout. So some of the positive results I talked about, wealth, literacy and financial awareness. Here's the 5 is really good, right? So we're feeling like, and we know that the content that we create is really advantageous in helping people understand how to raise capital. That is for sure. So we're achieving those objectives, right? Presenters. The presenters were like sky high through the roof. I knew they would be, to be quite frank. They're from all different industries, and the modules step from one bit of knowledge to the next. And these folks are volunteering their time, many of them at a rate that would be in the thousands of dollars if you were to hire them. So it's a huge value, and I'm really grateful again that we've been able to do this to this point on a really shoestring budget because of that lead with a giving hand attitude. So I know that one of the, let's see, I think Andy's here. I think I saw Andy, one of our participants, Andy, who got into the program. Maybe Andy, you can tell us a little bit about your experience, some of the benefits, maybe where you started. Like, let's be really truthful here. Where were you at when you started? Where are you at now, man? Like, give us a little couple 2-minute, 3-minute update.
Yeah, thank you very much. And what I can first say is so much kudos to Emily and Chris for what they did that last time. I joined in purely to learn a little bit about opportunity zones, because 4 years ago, my business sold a property. We're a working business. We sold a property, and we landed up with a 2.8 million capital gain. And my advisors at the time said, "Oh, what's ideal for 1031?" So within a matter of months, I'd redeployed the gain into a 1031 property that I knew nothing about, but we were actually in an opportunity zone. My tax advisors had no understanding of opportunity zones, even though the legislation had been in place for a full year. So within 3 months of selling that, making a gain, I gave the government over $500,000. And that I'm just frightened at seeing it, how it's been frittered away since. I could have put it to good use. And so we're left in that situation. And I said to myself, I've got to find out more, because we've another property to sell that we could have a bit of a gain again there too. So I joined Ozy Works Group just for educational purposes. And then the Accelerator opportunity came along. And I said, well, I'm not really looking for outside investment, but I need to learn. I need to be prepared. But boy, did I learn. It was a tremendous eye-opener. I mean, all the subjects, all the valuable speakers, it's been an education. I'm an old guy now, but I'm telling you, I learned such a tremendous amount, and I'm going to put it to use. And it's been an unforgettable experience, learning from so many and meeting so many good friends. So all I can say is, go for it. You'll never appreciate how much you're actually going to learn. Get into it if you're considering it. It's a great program.
Thank you, Andy. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Andy.
that. And if you could also talk just for a second about, you were one of the projects that got to pitch at the end. And I'm going to talk about this in a second. Like, this is not a competition. It's all based on merit. But can you tell us, like, what that experience was like? I mean, you practice pitching. I know, you did it a couple times. And so, how do you feel where you were when you started versus where you are at the end, and what got you there?
Well, I mean, I've been presenting all my life in my business career, but this was one of the most terrifying. But it was great. It was it was because we did practice ones as went along. And keep an open mind. You've got to be able to understand that the comments you get are constructive, and they're from people with experience looking at this. So that's where I learned a tremendous amount. And I really understood a lot about how to find capital. I've no external investors in my business, so I've just had to struggle through on my own. But it kind of I wish I'd done this 20, 30 years ago. So I learned a lot. I've learned the hard way, but this opened up a new thought line for me. So, and given the presentation at the end, it was a great experience. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was, by the time you got there, it was all or nothing. And as I said, I look back with great fondness and enjoyment from it.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate you, having, and I want to commend you, because you really did participate at every level, right? And there are there's instructions that we provided throughout the whole thing, and sometimes they're in depth, and you have to kind of pick through them. Like, I know you reached out to us on multiple occasions to ask about different questions. You really got immersed, and kudos, right? Because that's the type of mentality and attitude that it takes, where, and it's okay to not have that happen, right? It's okay. Like, I also commend the person who came to us and said, you know what, this isn't for me, right? That's empowerment. Like, that's really knowing where you're at and knowing when to pivot and or stop, right? And those can be hard, challenging decisions. But anyway, that happens because you were in it, right? From both perspectives.
And the only thing I'd like to add about that is the homework that you get every week. I mean, I've got long work days, and I've got a lot going on, and I found it hard. It was hard. It did take a lot, and sometimes I'm feeling I was falling behind, and I was letting everybody down. But the support that you and Emily provided, and the encouragement, it just kept it going. I had to back out a couple of weeks, but that was just absolutely with my control. But just let everybody aware, it does take time and commitment. You need to do it properly, and but it's worthwhile in the end. You get feedback.
Yeah, and growth comes from that, and that's part of putting everyone in a position where it is a bit challenging and difficult, because money, like, it's so cliche, but money doesn't grow on trees. And even if it did, people would be like, hey, you can't just come up and take my money, right? So you got to put in time to, like, get through the gate and help people understand why you want it, and what, you know what I mean? Like, this is a resource. And especially when we're talking about private capital, I want to really note that the investors that we had in cohort 1 and the investor that we have in the next one, like they've worked really hard for this money, right? Like they've put in decades of work. And so it's not just like, oh, like flying money out the window, right? Like that it's important. And that's why these relationships are really important to us to be able to create, right? So thank you, Andy. I could talk with you for a while, but I know we have 12 minutes left. So really thank you for being here and for.
And anybody can contact me if they want to call me, if they want to call me for a separate chat.
Thank you for that. Really, very gracious. So let's talk about cohort 2. I want to dive into this. Cohort 2 has $1 million in OZ capital in the pool. I'm going to talk about who it's for, what the expectations are, and what the next steps. If you've been through this in cohort 1, you'll know. This initiative has a single investor with $1 million in OZ funds. But I want to also highlight the other people who are behind this. So the experts that have provided their volunteer time, which I've mentioned multiple times. This time around, the content is actually recorded. So what we're going to do is we don't want the people to have to say the same thing over and over again. The recordings are going to give participants time to watch these week to week on their own time. There is also homework, like Andy mentioned, but this is a component that we got feedback on and that we really want to make sure that we're pivoting on. So we've got the recordings, which will be required. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to invite our experts to come back and still do a live session. It won't be in the evenings this time, but that live session will be an opportunity for our participants to ask questions to the folks who have made the recording. So it's not just a one way. We want to make the content as accessible on multiple levels as it can be. And then to the advisors and team, I mean, shout out to Emily and all the people that made this happen from Ozworks Group and from our team, because I basically said, I have this crazy idea. I think the industry really needs it. And would you guys work twice as hard for the same amount of pay? And for whatever reason, they said yes, and I know the reasons, because they believe in this too. We are looking at other cohorts that would particularly be in certain areas of the country. So we are looking into grant partnerships and ways that we can do this on a bigger scale so that it's not all just volunteer. I mean, Ozworks Group is a for-profit entity. We have to be responsible with how we're spending and what we're doing, but we do believe in this accelerator. So we're going to keep moving with it. I mentioned it's not a competition, but what it is a proving ground. So you get to show your commitment. I mean, Andy, obviously your experience was what it was because you made commitments. You're willing to pivot. You mentioned the constructive critique. You can take it or leave it, but to be able to listen is a big benefit of what this is. And how ready are you to receive capital? I mean, we had a conversation with one of the participants who wasn't really ready. The deck was ready, the score was ready, but he agreed that his pitch just wasn't ready. And so we have that open dialogue, and we're always available if you feel like you're getting hung up. Who's it for? So companies and deals moving through early stage. So, if you have an idea and you don't have a plan, that's going to be a requirement for applying for the accelerators, that you have some kind of business plan. I will say that deals that are further along have a more likelihood to be invested in, because investors want to see that you have a track record of something. So if you have an idea, you're going to get a wealth of information and education, and you may tee you up for another cohort down the road where the deal flow. But I really want to set expectations about how money will go through this. It's for operating businesses and real estate deals. It's for individuals who are ready to make commitments and who have this collaborative, abundant mindset, right? If you're just kind of like, hey, my deal's the best, I just want money, this may not be the right place for you. Or maybe it is, because that's a great learning experience to kind of put you out of your comfort zone. Are you ready? So it's going to be work. I don't know how many times I've said that in the last 20 minutes. There's no guaranteed check at the end. So the investor and you are going to have to make connections. And this is another thing that we learned through the feedback, is that we're going to provide more mechanisms for encouraging and teaching participants how to actually engage with investors, right? Because we've got investors that are sitting back saying like, well, I didn't hear from anyone. But we also, to to shine the light back on us, we want to do a better job of making sure that we're teaching people how to do that outreach. But you know, it's a proving ground. So building the relationship might lead to a check down the road. 1 month to prove your commitment level. That's for all applicants. So once you apply, you'll be put into a session that where we'll talk about what that looks like that month pre-program. So just because you apply does not mean that you get in. You will have to show that you have what it takes. The program itself is 3 months. There's weekly 2-hour sessions and homework. We've talked about that. And you will also be reviewing and providing feedback on other deals. I'm going to show this slide really fast. It's meant to be like overwhelming because these are all the courses that you will be taking and what they ultimately will provide. So I just want you to see that there's a lot to it. How do you get to pitch? So you can receive a scholarship. You can apply. We'll have a QR code here in a minute. You will, or you can pay to participate. That's always an option. The way that you get to pitch is you receive exemplary scores. Again, there's a matrix that we have. You'll practice pitching. Attendance and watching the videos is required. It is taken into consideration, but if you have reasons and you communicate them with us, we will take that into consideration. And then at the end, well, we do have a committee of advisors that will look at the pitches and score them throughout the course of the program. So what are the investment expectations? Again, just to be really clear, private investment is private. So if you have a relationship or create a relationship with the investors, you can ask them how much money they've deployed or how much they intend to deploy or where they intend to deploy it. You know, that's something that we facilitate. We are not the bank. We don't hold any of the capital. We are here to get you a seat at the table. And Emily and I had talked about sort of, you know, if you get invited to a dinner, private dinner, you know, you could either be the person that sits in the corner and just expects all the people to come up and talk to you, or you can advocate for yourself, right? So we want to do more of that in cohort 2 of encouraging how to do that outreach and get comfortable with it. So thanks to all the people. I do want to just note all the people who volunteered their time for cohort 1. Emily, DJ, Veronica, Zahn, Matan, Andrew, Cody, John, Brett. If you take cohort 2, you'll see all these people in videos and follow up with them. Sean, Jill, Tom, Amanda, Sue, Stacy, Gordon, Emily, Ashley, and Maria. If you've been in and around the OZ world and landscape, you'll recognize a lot of these names and faces. They're great. So what's next? Here are the dates that are coming up. You can apply for a scholarship up until the end of this month. We will do one more info session. If you know anybody that you want to, that would benefit from this, or businesses in your portfolio, whatever that looks like, please encourage them to come to our next info session. Emily has the date for that. I don't remember exactly when that is, but it's close to the end of the month. Then we announced the scholarships on July 23rd. That's after the window of time where we give you access to Osworks group, and you'll participate in some of the Zooms and kind of prove that you're capable and ready to be part of this cohort. And then it begins July 11th. Actually, I think this should be June 23rd. My fault. So here's some QR codes. Emily, if you have links and you want to drop them in, you can apply for a scholarship. You can also go and pay. We do have payment plans available. Contact Emily for that. Basically, if you pay, you don't have to go through the month of scholarship boot camp, to use that word. I know Ashley Tyson would appreciate that. But you know, that's these scholarships are you know, they're covered. And so that's it, you know, it's a big value because it not only includes the Accelerator potentially, but also 6 months to Osworks group at a base membership level. So so Emily, if you want to put the links in the chat, if you're there and you have them ready, that would be amazing. And hey, we're here for you. So got a couple minutes to answer any questions. I know we covered a lot. This is recorded, so we'll post a recording. Emily, did you have the links? Do you need the links?
I'm posting them.
Okay, cool. Andy, thanks again for being here. I know that there's some folks on the call that that I've talked to, and I appreciate all of you being here. And hopefully this is information that you can spread to your communities and let them know that it's available. And yeah, any questions? Does anybody want to chime in? Nothing in the chat? Everybody's eating their lunch. Emily, if we end 3 minutes early, that's going to be a real record for me.
Yeah, that'll be a record for sure. And I did have a question, private message to me earlier, and I'll just address it in case anybody's wondering. In cohort 1, we had 25 deals. That was a combination of 14 scholarship recipients and people that paid to participate. We do not have a cap on participation. It's all dependent on scholarship applications and the people that earn the ability to participate and those who pay.
Karen Sorber from Mycronic. I just wanted to say thank you very much. This was very informative.
Wonderful. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Who was it? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Karen Sorber from Mycronic Technologies. We've had an investment in the past from the Pearl Fund. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Nice to see you, Karen.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let us know how we can be supportive. Emily, maybe even drop your email in the chat if people want it, and we'll let everybody get out of here and enjoy the rest of their lunch. Maybe that's why everybody's not on camera, because they're chowing down on a sandwich.
And also another question in the chat, just to speak it out loud. If you go out for a scholarship and you do not receive one, you can pay to participate if you so choose.
And remember that anybody who applies will also get 6 months of access to Osworks Group at our base membership level. So you will have the ability to access experts, our compliance Zoom session, our real estate Zoom session, our group strategy Zoom session. Those all happen once a month, and all of our Friday networking events and all the access and content inside of our community. So yeah, thank you all. Appreciate you being here, and let us know how we can be supportive. Okay.